Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here at Mobile World Congress for 2013 in Barcelona. I am having the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Gerry Collins from Altobridge. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, Tony. Very, very well.
Good to speak to you. Good to speak to you again, my friend.
Excellent, yeah. No, always enjoy talking to bnet, actually. It's great.
Fantastic. Listen, for all the people out there in bnetTV land, why don't you give a brief overview of Altobridge and where you fit within this ecosystem?
Yeah, so Altobridge, we're well known as the company that goes to the places to provide mobile coverage where previously people thought it was uneconomic. Very well known for going out to rural Africa, rural Asia, bringing voice services. The big deal for us this year, as we've gone from 2012 to 2013, is the fact that we've now deployed 3G services for remote areas. We've announced probably the biggest contract in our company's history, deploying 350 sites in remote areas in Malaysia for 3G, providing 3G services to those communities all over eastern Malaysia where previously no access to internet services, for example. And that's been enabled by some of the technologies we've been making over the last couple of years called data at the edge, which is the ability to optimize the backhaul links out to 3G sites. We use an advanced form of caching so that content that that multiple users in a cell are accessing gets sent out to the cell site just once, so that you then economize in any further transmission out to the cell site. So we're able to economize by about 40% the amount of backhaul costs out to for 3G. And that really has been the biggest development for us this year, going out to 3G and introducing our data at the edge technology.
Just sort of a social question, which is how does it change the social and economic behavior of a rural area that's never had that type of coverage before?
Yeah, so we've done quite a lot of studies in terms of the kind of the socio-demographics and the socio-economic impacts of what we do. You can see a major impact in terms of the actual ability. Well, there's two really big things that happen. One is the ability for the people in those areas to trade, particularly in the rural areas. You're talking about people who are producing agricultural products. Their ability to actually communicate to their suppliers, get information on pricing. That is really major. And you particularly see that when you look at the traffic profile on the market days. The traffic that you see on a market day in these remote communities that have never had telecommunications before, the traffic is a factor of 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 times. So you can see that there's actually people now able to do business in those communities, getting better prices for their products, communicating to people outside, etc. So that's really the business side of things. But what you also see is just improved communication, because what you get in the village communities is obviously separated families. Maybe separated from your cousins, but you also might actually be separated from your children. A large part of the developing world is the parents are actually in the city and the children are back actually in the village with the grandparents. So you actually, in some of the sites we see actually a factor of about 80% of the traffic is actually incoming into the village community. And it's basically family members who are in the cities being able to now communicate back to the rest of the family who have stayed behind in the village, whether it's children, whether it's grandparents, whether it's brothers or sisters. So you see, a massive change in their kind of social environment, that they're able to actually now communicate to their family members. So it's both commercial and social are some of the biggest factors that we see changing those areas.
Gerry, that is a very philanthropic story just to begin with. It really is.
It's great. It makes us feel good every morning when we talk about these things. It's very, very interesting actually, the stories we get from some of our field engineers that go out and install our systems against these remote communities that have never had telephone service or again have never seen the internet before. And our field engineers come out with the most amazing stories about being welcomed, the man who brought the telephone to the village, or the man who brought the internet to the village, and they become extremely popular. They're obviously wined and dined with the best products. There is a side of what we do which we feel we are contributing to the development of a lot of these areas. The investment that our investors have made to allow us to innovate, to bring down the costs and make those technologies accessible to remote communities, we feel good about it. And the extra benefit for us is that we've been solving those problems out in remote communities, and all of a sudden we realize that those solutions are actually relevant now back into the urban areas, because those urban areas where you're having this really, really big increase in traffic data demand, and the economics are really becoming quite difficult. The fact that we've been tackling those economic challenges in the remote areas means our technologies, such as the data at the edge products, have real market application in the urban areas. So you get to do the good work, the feel-good stuff, the remote, but then actually you're also able to provide solutions to the urban areas as well.
Okay, let's go back to some technology for a little bit, and let's talk about the actual technology and caching at the edge and how that efficiency has increased your productivity.
Yeah, so there's many different aspects to the data at the edge products. I guess the first one is that is the most interesting for a mobile telephone and telecom operator, is that we're able to reduce the cost of the backhaul. So you're optimizing the transmission that is going out to the base station through this form of caching, identifying recurring content, and you're bringing down the costs. But bringing down the cost is always very important. But when you do that, what you're doing, you're making the site, the mobile base station site, more intelligent. You're putting a little bit more electronics, you're putting a bit more memory, and then you realize you've really got an asset out there. So what I can start to do is actually think about, well, what kind of content do I want to push down? What kind of content do I want to get really close to the end user? Because as the mobile network operator, you've got equipment, you've got a site really close to your users. So what about getting, the really personalized content, the content which is location specific, or the content which, I've got a commercial agreement that if I can sell, I get, 5% of the commission on it. So you might do it initially because you can get those 40% or more savings on the cost of your backhaul, but by doing it, then you've got this added benefit that I can start to really understand my customers, get the right content down there, so that when those high-value customers demand that content, it's delivered very, very quickly and with a good quality of service. So I've got happy customers, and maybe I'm also creating a business model which says the content which I'm positioning down there can be advertising content, it can be TV programs that can be sold, etc. So you're actually creating potentially a revenue source for the operator as well. So it's kind of a progression. You might do the initial deployment of data at the edge technology through the justification by bandwidth savings, but then you open up so many other possibilities.
So it's really interesting you say that, because the first thing that comes to my mind in a rural area would be a localized or televised sporting event, whether it's a high school football or whatever. That doesn't have to go all the way back, right? It can stay. Exactly.
So there's actually two very good examples that we're working at the moment. One is, as you might say, the more social benefit type solution, whereby you actually pre-position the school curriculum out of the base station. So actually children that are going to school, if they have some form of electronic access, they've actually all got all of their lessons and all their coursework is actually out there. So they actually don't need to pull that through the network, and that can be a cheap way of delivery of that stuff. But then you look at a sports event, and this is something actually we're going to be doing in the next couple of months, is and this is not necessarily just rural, this again is about urban. So there's a lot of television content is delivered by satellite. Yeah. So you've got your base station out there, and you've got your cache, you've got your data at the edge, ability to cache that content. So you're streaming live television content via satellite. It comes in, you stream that onto the server, the cache that's on the base station site, and then you can bring that straight out to the user. So you're not actually pushing all of that, say, sports content through the network. You've actually broadcasted via quite a cheap satellite dish, and then you're straight out to the user because you have the ability to stream it from the server, from the data at the edge cache that you've put at the site. So absolutely, in terms of a way of distribution of education content, sporting, premium content, that is actually one of the ways you can do that, because you've made that investment out of the cell site.
So I could definitely see that for some upcoming sporting events. Olympics coming up in Russia, FIFA, World Cup in Latin America, and the Olympics there as well. Once that data comes into the area, it doesn't need to go back and forth and back and forth.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the cases we were talking about, yeah, is actually Formula One. So you actually would deploy that technology.
HD as well, which is sort of really important.
Exactly, and the quality of the devices that people have in their hands now, they're going to get the benefits of that. So yeah, you actually would stream over satellite into the base station the live television images. So actually, you're at the event. Oh my goodness, there's been a crash. Let me have a look at that again. And you look at it, and the mobile network has not really been put under the same pressure in terms of dragging that content through as previously. So, look, there's plenty of applications. It will make the mobile networks, we believe, a lot richer. And it's really about just allowing the operator to really take advantage of the fact that they have made the investment to get close to the mobile, to the user, and then use that to stream, to build the content that's close to the user, make it personalized, make it location specific, and make it rich,
Not that I want to degradate backhaul at all at any point in time, but this year I definitely feel there's a lot of at-the-edge flavor going on at this particular conference, and clearly Altobridge is a leader within that community.
Yeah, and it really, we're 11 years old, and the decisions we made, back at the start when we realized, but how do we optimize for our first customers who are the remote customers, was actually by putting more intelligence out at the edge. So all of the work that we've done in terms of the architecture of mobile networks has been about making the edge of the network more intelligent. Good news for us is, of course, now as you say, that's become the theme of the show, and it really does make sense, because as I say, the operators make that investment to get the networks out there. So don't let it be dumb when it gets out there. Make it smart. And again, that's what we've been doing for 10 years, whether it's been 2G, whether it's been 3G, now the launch of data at the edge. It's about getting that extra intelligence out there and really getting the value out of those assets.
Gerry, always a pleasure to speak to you. Always a pleasure to talk to you at Altobridge. I hope we get a chance for an update again in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Speaking with Gerry Collins of Altobridge here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV.